Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have a special book news video coming to you from the news we learned at LibertyCon for the publisher Raconteur Press. For those of you who have not seen my vlog, LibertyCon is a science fiction fantasy book convention held in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where a bunch of indie publishers come and announce their slate of books. They talk about what's new with the publisher. It's a way for authors to come and meet the publishers and all this type of stuff. And this year I attended and I went to most of the major publishing panels, including the Chris Kennedy Publishing Panel, the Bain Books Publishing Panel, the Three Ravens Publishing Panel, and the Raconteur Press Publishing Panel. And so I'm going to be covering what we learned about Raconteur Press. And I'm also going to be going through the list of books they've published if you've never heard of Raconteur Press, so that something might catch your eye and you might want to purchase books from them. This is mostly to just get the word out about them because a lot of people just don't know about these indie publishing houses. People know about the big five. They know about the big major publishing houses that are underneath, the major publishers in New York. They don't know about the indie ones. And so I'm hoping to shed light on these indie publishing houses. So let's discuss what Raconteur Press is. This is a fairly new publisher that started releasing short story anthologies just in 2022, in April of 2022. So they're very young. They just started about 2 years ago. It's helmed by Ian McMurtry, who's also known in the book community as a guy named Law Dog. And they published 3 anthologies in the year 2022, and they published 15 in 2023. Whew, they really ramped it up there. And they are really, so far, they've only published short story anthologies. However, they will be delving into more types of books that I'll talk about in a moment. But one of their claims to fame that they talked about in the panel was that Tangent Online, which is this book reviewer company online, basically they give out recommendations for short story collections sometimes, and they'll say we recommend this story or we don't recommend this story. Well, they went through Raconteur Press's Giant Freakin' Robots short story collection, and they recommended every single short story in that anthology. And that never happens at Tangent Online. So that was a pretty big deal that I thought was very impressive. As I mentioned earlier, this is very much a young and new publishing house. They're still getting their feet wet. They're still getting rolling on everything, and so they're just starting to get their social media presence. They started a Substack earlier this year where they publish news and also have information for authors to submit short stories for them, and they also have some of their short stories they put up on their Substack. It is free to subscribe to their Substack if you want. You can also pay them if you want, but it's free to subscribe. That way you start learning about what's coming out. And but it was really interesting that when I went to this panel, the majority of the people in the room were people who had submitted and released at least one short story or more with the publisher. There were probably, I would guess, about 50 or 60 people in the room, and I'd say about 40 of them were people who had published books. And it was really, really cool to see because Raconteur had these badges that they handed out to all their authors. It was the first time they'd ever had these types of badges. And also, they actually handed out some contracts to authors for short stories, which I thought was really cool. They did it right there at the panel, and I thought that was pretty neat. But because so many people at the publisher or at the publishing panel were people from the publisher, people who had published through them, it really served almost like an internal town hall. But they still had a few of us who were not published through them, who were just curious on finding out information about Raconteur Press, and they answered some of my questions. One of the questions I had was about where to find their books. The easiest answer is just to go to Amazon and look up Raconteur Press, and you'll find all of their currently published anthologies. It's actually, if you look at any of their anthologies and you click on the series, it'll show you that there's, as of the recording of this video, 30 anthologies released. And so If you click on that, you can literally see all of their anthologies all in one list, and you can click on the specific one that interests you. And they said that's the easiest way to find out about them. They are working on a website, and they plan to have that website up and running later on this year. So they are making moves and adding a lot more to their online presence. As the head of the publisher said, he said, "I'm trying to become a real publisher," which I very much applaud him for. This year, they had some pretty ambitious goals at the publisher. For 2024, they announced a new plan, a publishing plan, and they called it 24 in 24. And what this means is that they planned to publish 24 short story anthologies in 2024. That is basically 2 anthologies published a month. That is an insane number. That is incredible that they are able to pull that off, and that it's able to be financially successful for the publisher. And they plan to do even more books next year. And if you compare it to some other, particularly sci-fi fantasy publishers, that is like one specific publisher, like Baen, for example, which a lot of my audience knows Baen. They do maybe like a half dozen anthologies every year. About that, sometimes a little bit more than that, sometimes a little less than that, but about half dozen. 24 is a lot. But that is, again, that's the only thing they publish. They haven't broken into novels yet. However, they did announce at the publishing panel that Raconteur Press plans to begin publishing novels in 2025. And what their current plan is that their first 4 to 6 books will be in-house books by people that they know, people who've worked with Raconteur Press before. And so that's basically like they chose those authors to participate. But later in 2025, and the first of those books will come out in January 2025. But later in 2025, once they've figured out their system, they plan to have some open submissions for novels. So, and when I asked where to find out where that information will be, they said their website and their Substack will be, their website, which is forthcoming, and their Substack is where to find that information. But it's not just novels that they're breaking into in 2025. They also plan to start selling children's books. They start planning to publish children's books for their publisher. The way they described it is they want children's books that can be read by children and are for children, but they want adults to feel like it's not boring and it's not too dumbed down for them. They want adults to appreciate the books as much as children do. When they were asked to give some influences, to give some general ideas of what they envision these books to be like, they listed a couple of influences like the 3 Investigators series, Encyclopedia Brown, and the Hardy Boys. So if you've read any of those books, that should serve as a good indicator. For me, from my interpretation of this as a reporter, it seems to me that they're breaking into junior novels and maybe some middle grade books. They probably are not going to delve into YA, and I would be surprised if they're doing like picture books for kids, but junior novels and middle grade seems to be what they're aiming for with this. But again, I could be wrong because they were very vague about it in the publishing panel. Whenever we asked for specifics, the publisher pretty much just said stay tuned, which we will stay tuned. But then this is also impressive. So remember when I said that they would be doing 24 anthologies published in 2024? Well, they plan to do 25 anthologies in 2025. They're calling it 25 and 25. That means they're doing one short story anthology every 2 weeks. That is also a very ambitious plan. If they can pull it off and make it successful, my hat is off to the people at Raconteur Press, because that is truly an impressive feat to do. The publisher has 30 books currently out that are released to audiences, and I believe all of these are in print. And so what I'm going to do for the next couple of minutes is I'm going to read out what their various anthologies are, and I'm going to put the picture of the cover on the screen so that you can see it yourself. And if any of these interest you, just look up on Amazon, Raconteur Press, you'll find all the list of all their anthologies, or just look up the specific title of the anthology that you're looking for. But I'm going to discuss all of their series first, and at the end, I'll go back and talk about the individuals. And from what I understand, from what they talked about in the publishing panel, you could pick up any book in these short story series. It's just that the series is like the idea behind it. That's why there's like, for instance, they have their Malta series, which I actually have a copy of, but like you could read any of the Malta books. It's just that they have a couple books that tie together through Malta. So let's go ahead and start talking about what their various series are and what their anthology books look like. So they have 5 anthologies in their Space Cowboys series, including the first book, Space Cowboys 2, Electric Rodeo, Space Cowboys 3, Return of the Buckaroo, Space Cowboys 404, Cow Not Found, which that is a hilarious title. I'm sorry, that is a hilarious title. I love it. And then Space Cowboys 5, Cattle Drive. And so they have that kind of sci-fi series there, a sci-fi western. They also have 3 anthologies in their Moggies in Space series, with Book 1, Moggies in Space, Book 2, Moggies Back in Space, and Book 3, Moggies in Space, A Galaxy Far, Far Away, which is a genius title. If I'll give them one thing, their titles are genius sometimes. They also have 4 books in their Malta series, Ghosts of Malta, Knights of Malta, Saints of Malta, and Falcons of Malta. I actually have a copy, as I showed a second ago, of Ghosts of Malta. I got this while I was at the convention. This is their first anthology that they ever produced, and I am very excited to read this and talk about it and read more Raconteur Press books. They also have 3 books in their Space Marines series, including Space Marines 2, and Space Marines 3, another science fiction series. This series has some interesting covers here. We got their Pinup Noir series, including their books are just Pinup Noir 2, and Pinup Noir 3. Very striking covers. They also have 2 anthologies in their Spurgle Chronicles, I hope I pronounced that right, that have just great humorous covers and titles. It is Your Honor, I Can Explain, and the second book is What? You Again? I love those. They also have 2 books in their All Will Burn series of anthologies, including the first book, All Will Burn, and the second book, All Will Burn Fierce Love. Raconteur Press also has several as of yet standalone. They might do more series of these in the future, but as of right now, there's only like 1 in these series as far as I can tell. If I get any of this information wrong, I apologize. It's just based off my research into them. But they have You See What Happened Was, He Was Dead When I Got There, Full Steam Ahead, Giant Freaking Robots, Weird West, weird spelled with a Y, Goblin Market, Hooves, Tracks, and Sabers, Tales of Alternate History, and the most recently released one, Alien Family Values. Not everything from this publisher is likely to be your cup of tea. That's totally understandable. Most publishers understand that that's going to happen. However, I think that because they have such a broad swath of potential ideas and potential types of series, they have kind of more science fiction, military stuff, they have like the westerns, they have like the Malta series, which is a little bit more grounded, they have the humorous stuff, like they have a bunch of different anthology series, and their standalones as well, and so you can easily pick something that you like if you're interested in them. And I want to take a moment and talk about something that I have a lot of friends in the book review space who have a vendetta against traditional publishers. And they say, oh, traditional publishing is terrible, and I don't want to be part of traditional publishers anymore, and everything they produce sucks, and I only want to do indie books. I only want to do self-pub indie books. And I understand that sentiment. I disagree with it very much so. I think there's still a lot that traditional publishers have to offer. However, I also do want to encourage people to get into indie books, and especially indie presses, because building up these kinds of publishing houses, these indie ones, will help create good competition with the major publishing houses out of New York. So it's not just about buying from just someone who puts up their book as an indie. It's about starting new independent publishers, publishing houses that are located outside New York and stuff. So if you believe in that idea of sticking it to New York and starting and going with indie stuff, check out publishers like Raconteur Press, publishers like Chris Kennedy Publishing, publishers like Three Ravens Publishing, even Bain, which has connections to New York, but is still, kind of an indie publishing house. You should check out all of these publishing houses because they are trying to produce the best content they can with what they have, and they are trying to be significant in the publishing space. And 24 anthologies in 1 year is amazing for Raconteur Press. So check out Raconteur Press and all their books. If you've ever read a book from Raconteur Press, let me know what you thought of it. And do any of these covers really look good to you? Do any of them not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.